Welcome to Association Chat. This is your spot. If you are in associations, interested in associations, you're an association um, professional of any kind, you're an association staffer, you're an association service provider. Heck, you just love associations, then this is your spot. I am your host, KiKi L'Italien, and today I am not coming to you with a podcast episode or a fabulous interview. I am coming to you attempting to do something that is a bit of an interactive workshop. And I'm curious to see if some of you will join me live on here. If not, you may just end up watching this as a replay. Or maybe you're not that interested in the topic that we have today at all. But whatever the case may be, I hope that if you've stumbled onto this particular workshop discussion about goal setting, what have you, that you'll stay for a little bit and maybe think a little bit about some of these ideas and some of these things that we're talking about, mostly because this all stems from Dave Coreal likes to talk about getting fired up. What's Dave fired up about? What's KiKi fired up about? KiKi's fired up about the hate that comes in for New Year's resolutions, people saying that, they're ineffective, that they don't like them. And I posted last week about my thoughts on why I love New Year's resolutions and really why I think that if any time is a good time for making a goal or for setting some big goals and to go from year to year to say, here is how the progress I've made. Here's what I've accomplished. Here's what I want to work on. Like, I love that whole reflection, reassessment, and retargeting for the future type of idea. I do it regularly, but I personally get charged up when we're leading up into the first of the year, or the first of the quarter, and peering ahead and thinking, what is possible? So that is what went into creating this workshop. I have multiple planners, people who know me well, people in the book club for Association Chat know that we've even had like a show and tell for planners because a bunch of us in here really like that. But I'll tell you something, it takes more than just a great journal. It takes more than just the right planner. It takes a mindset. And I really do believe it takes this consistency and attention and intention for moving forward. And it's not something that you just touch on at the first of the year and say, go. It's something that you think about on the daily if you are aiming to be successful at your goals. All right. So what I'm going to do is, hey, Liz, hey, let's go 2025. I love it. So glad to see you here. You know how much I love my planners. I'm not sure how many people are actually going to be watching this live, as I said before, but I will say that this whole situation of setting your goals and creating a game plan for the future is enormously important. I do care about it a lot, and that's why we're here. So goals for today. Here are the goals that I have for this particular workshop. So one is I want all of us to think about what worked, what didn't work, and the lessons that we took from 2024. The next thing is I want to talk about, I have no dog in this show, no horse in this show. I don't know how that goes, that idiom, but the Full Focus Planner by Michael Hyatt is my chosen planner for this year. It's not one that I've ever used before, but I am familiar with Michael Hyatt's work and his SMARTER goals. What I like about his SMARTER goals framework, and you don't have to have the planner for this, is that this SMARTER framework takes your SMART goals, which many of us are familiar with, and I'll go through that in a sec. But it goes through your SMART goals and then it adds like the ER part. And one of those is risky. You want to make one of the goals something that is a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of a reach. I also like the fact that included in this is excitement. And that is, do you have excitement for what it is that you're doing? Because, as I said in my article last week, I don't think that if you don't have excitement for what you're doing, and excitement for these goals you're setting, and it's just a metric, and it's just lose 5 pounds or something like that. Not only is it not saying like all of the, how am I going to measure them? What's it going to, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, if you're not truly excited about it, do you think you're going to achieve it? Probably not, because it feels like drudgery. It feels like everything. It feels like I don't know, you're having to like clean the bathroom or something. I don't know. And so that is why I think we have to get a little bit more serious about tapping into our real thoughts, our real feelings about what we want to achieve. Because I don't think if we don't have any passion for it, it's going to just make it really hard. And because of that, it's going to make it less likely that we're going to achieve those things. Can you do it? Sure. Is it going to be easy? No. And I think that's like just more unlikely or more likely, I should say, that you're not going to be able to achieve those goals. You know what I mean? I'm curious, for those of you who are out there watching right now, what your thoughts are on this and if you've really experienced this. But the first question that I have for all of you, and if you're watching, type in, engage, type into the chat. But the first thing I want you to share with us is there one goal that you've been thinking about specifically for 2025? And I know you may have like your whole list. You may have like 3, you may have 5, you may have your one word for the year. I know it can have many permutations, but if you would just share just one goal that you've been thinking about for 2025, we can use that as a starting point. I'm curious to see where you are. I'm curious to see what you're thinking about. And then we'll go from there. I'll tell you, if I want to talk about professional goals, and that's kind of the focus for Association Chat's workshop today. If you want to talk about, professional goals, I would say that, I know one of my big goals is hitting 10,000 subscribers for the Association Chat magazine this year. I launched Association Chat magazine. It's a quarterly magazine, digital and print, in 2024. That was an enormous, it was an enormous thing to do for both Association Chat, and it was enormous for me personally. And I want that to continue to grow in quality, and also I want more people to see it. So that's one of my goals. All right. I see Michael. He says, improve board and staff strategic thinking before strategic planning. Okay. And I want to say that I'm going to put over here in the comments over here, I'm going to put the StreamYard link if you want to connect and jump on over here with me. This will allow you, Michael and Liz, and anyone else who is watching, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching over on, you've registered and you're in our platform here, you'll be able to see the link. I think if you're on LinkedIn, you might not be able to see that link. But I just put a link for those of you in the chat who might want to join me on camera and share some of your thoughts. All right. So I saw Michael kind of jump in and then jump back off. But what I'm going to say is, if you jump in, you won't immediately be thrown into the ring with me. I'll be able to see where you're coming in from, and we'll be able to bring you up later. All right. Liz has professional goal, kick off my consultation business and book some engagements off of it. Yeah. Oh, that looks so cool. I love it. I love it. I want you to do it. Also, never apologize for typos when you're doing something productive and doing something meaningful and you're walking. I love it. Let's bring up Michael. Hi, I'm so glad you're joining me. thanks for joining me. I see that you mentioned improve board and staff strategic thinking before strategic planning. Talk to us a little bit about what this goal looks like for you in 2025. Why is that there? What are you thinking?
Well, I believe in goals. I'm not so certain about resolutions. I think they got a bad name, But
Yeah. Yeah.
when I talk about strategic thinking, I think that the one of the issues we have to resolve is we're busy making all kinds of plans, but we're not applying some of the great principles of strategic thinking before we make the plan.
Hmm.
So if boards and staff would learn the techniques and the skills of strategic thinking, I feel that we would improve all of the plans, whether it's a strategic plan, an operational plan, a goal that you might have, like you're talking about, with the 10,000 subscriber kind of thing.
Right.
So for me, I use two different acronyms, but the one I'll use today is FORCE. So
For
to be a good strategic thinker, yeah, force F. You have to focus on the future. It's about foresight. You can't focus on what has been. You have to focus about where we're headed. And oftentimes in strategic plans, what we end up with is, 1 or 2 years of what we're going to do based on what we've already done instead of what we need to do to be relevant with member needs and the changing environment we're in. O stands for observing the environment. What I mean by that is oftentimes we observe the internal environment, but we don't observe the outside environment, which is having a greater effect on us all the time, whether we know it or not. So the second kind of skill, you'd think that everybody has it, is observe the total environment, not only what we know inside in the association world, but what we can glean, from other cultures around the world, so forth and so on. Or if you're using force, as I said, is for us then to reflect and reimagine our goals. Just because we set the goal on December 31st, we might want to rethink how we stated that goal so that it's realistic in a future context. C stands for collaborate and connect. That means that there are lots of people out there that know a lot more than you do about X.
hmm
So we should be, I'll give you an example, which is a plus for you, Kiki. You're really good at this online stuff. I mean, you're excellent at it.
Oh,
Uh, a lot of people, they get online, but they're not good at it. You're a natural, and it demonstrates that you're a natural. So you have something that you can offer other people in terms of learning in a collaborative way what it means to be kind of natural, easy going. You don't beat people over the head, but
just
you
wait. Just wait. No, I'm just kidding.
but you make your point. And last but not least, E stands for execute and execute with agility. What I mean by that is that we're so busy sometimes fixated on the goal and how we plan to achieve it that when one of those environmental factors or an observation that we make, we should just, slightly twist it a little bit in order to achieve the initial goal. We don't do that. We're not agile enough. So execution is often one of those huge problems. And boards and staff, not, in my judgment,
Mhm.
very good at it. And that's because we're busy building plans. And and the other point is that, as you know, the vast majority of our associations are relatively small staff associations. So we have the proverbial resource issues that go along with that:
Yeah.
time, money, and people. I like to add a fourth one: brand. So I
Yeah.
think I
Yeah.
think those are the resource issues that we need to deal with. And I've probably said enough now.
Well, I'm glad that you jumped on because not only do we need to have another acronym, because after all, this is for association. So we've got force, and that's good. But also, I always love talking to you. This is a great example. And I really do hope your goal and your focus for 2025, getting the word out for strategic thinking is a good one. I mean, not that I'm in the place to make a judgment call, but if I were, I would say, yeah, I want you to be successful in that goal. I want you to get the word out so that people are thinking more about the strategic thinking and learning about that. And that can impact everything that we do.
Yeah,
So,
we need the insights that go along with the making.
yes.
Our data, our data is sometimes good and clean and pretty, and sometimes our data is kind of crappy. I'm trying to find a good word.
It is true. It is true. Well, thank you for joining me. I might bring you back up in a little bit, but in the meantime, thank you, Michael.
My pleasure.
All right. I have to say, Michael is the best. He is very active and supportive in the community. If you've not connected with him, you need to seek him out. He has a fabulous podcast. He is regularly adding his thought leadership in the space. And I'm sure he would be happy if you connect with him on LinkedIn. If you haven't already, just wildly supportive and a good person to know. And he knows a lot of people. So it would behoove you all to connect with Michael. All right. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to go to the next set of questions because what I want you to think about now, you've thought about this one goal. I want you to think about the things that you experienced in 2024 that were the highlights, sort of the highlights of the year. And it might have been a low light of the year. Actually, it might have been just something remarkable in a bad way that, stands out to you as something that made 2024 just different. And so as you're thinking about that, sort of going through your mind, if you can jot down, if you can't, it's fine. If you can, jot down just the first couple of things that come to mind. And it might be your biggest professional win, maybe something that was difficult that you went through, but something that really stood out in 2024 that made 2024 like, yeah, this year, this positive, this maybe negative. You don't have to add the negative. In my situation, my mom died. It was a huge deal. And that impacted me. I certainly have learned a lot through it. I'm learning a lot through it, but I'll never remember 2024 without thinking of that landmark moment. But I also had a fantastic win, one of them being launching the magazine, which I mentioned before. That was a huge one, and one that at the beginning of the year, I didn't even know it was something I'd always wanted to do. Didn't even know that I'd have the ability to do that. And when the opportunity came up, I jumped on it. So just think about that. Think about your biggest wins of the year and anything that sort of stands out. And as you're thinking through that, hopefully you've thought of one by now. What's one lesson that you learned that you're carrying into this year, and you're starting out 2025 and you're saying, I learned this lesson in 2024 and I want to remember it and carry it forward with everything I'm doing. All right. And Liz is here. She says, discovering my passion for AI, public speaking, and marrying the two. I learned that I love helping people's light bulbs go off when they learn how they can use it. And let me tell you, Liz is out there making a name for herself. She is known. She is now published many times over in different places. And yes, even in a physical book that you can go pick up, her thoughts on AI. But she is leading people in not just her industry, but in many industries, learning about how to apply AI. And one of her great skills is public speaking, and people are excited when they hear from her. She says, okay, lesson, everything to gain, nothing to lose. That's amazing. I'll say one of my lessons was thinking bigger and not smaller, not thinking, oh, I want to do this great thing. And, but I need to rein it in a bit. I need to make it so it's more affordable or it's more feasible or something. It's not like you can't think, big, right? Or you can't you won't need to rein it in somewhat. But my challenge has actually been, for the first time in my life, having people around me who are saying, think bigger. And believe it or not, that's never ever been my challenge. It's always been, I've been told to sort of rein it in. So when I was challenged to think bigger, I realized I was holding myself back in some ways. And that has made a huge difference for me, but it's something I want to be conscious of as I'm moving forward. So excellent, excellent adding that. And honestly, as we're going along, if anybody wants to add, please do. So, what I want you to think about is as you have these different goals that you've thought about, you've had your big professional wins, or maybe the thing that stands out for you in 2024. And then you have this lesson as you're going into 2025. And this is such a great Liz moment because she's big into AI. What you could do right now, and this is an optional activity, now an optional moment here, is you could, if you're writing these things down, later put in your reflections into an AI tool like ChatGPT and say, how can these wins and lessons shape my 2025 goals? I don't know, maybe I should even go to Liz and have her build out the perfect prompt for you, but that would be a great way to like actually incorporate some of the things that we're talking about today, is interacting with your preferred generative AI tool, and to say, here are, here's one of my major goals going into 2025. Here's a big professional win here in 2024. And here's a lesson I'm going to carry into 2025. What can you tell me about how these wins and lessons can help shape my year ahead? So we need to celebrate. We need to celebrate the things that we have learned. We need to celebrate the things that we've been able to achieve in the past year. And those wins and those lessons, and identifying what they are, it's super important to remember this. It's a good reason to journal, because when we take the time to think about these things, to make a note of them, to write them down, that allows us to process this more fully, and it allows us to move forward and to build on some of that knowledge that we have, so that we can create a more meaningful goal or a more meaningful plan for the year ahead. I think sometimes, all of those, we can think about the lessons that we've learned, and then how often do we find ourselves forgetting as we go along and not appreciating the fact that we have gotten to where we are. So we need to take the time to do that. And so for you, Liz, you say that one of your big achievements for 2024 was discovering your passion for AI, for public speaking, and marrying the two. And it's incredible. I mean, I think that you take something like this and you're able to say, I love these things. I'm really good at it. And now I'm going to move forward. And so what does that look like? And how does that fit into those next things that you do? I'm so curious to know what your plan is currently for 2025 with this. We'll have to touch base later. But as we move forward, I want to think about these smarter goals. I mentioned it before. Michael Hyatt, he has this great planner, this great framework, and he talks about your SMART goals. And a lot of us are familiar with SMART goals, the S being specific, the M being measurable, the A being actionable, the R, and instead of it being relevant, which it typically, you want to make sure that it's relevant, Michael Hyatt puts risky. He says, stretch beyond your comfort zone. And I really like that he puts that in there. T is the traditional time bound. And then in Michael Hyatt's version of smarter goals, E is exciting. Make sure it's meaningful and motivating. Is this goal that you're setting something that is exciting to you? I can't tell you how many times I've messed up on that point in the past, where I made a goal and it just wasn't exciting. The outcome was something I wanted, but the goal itself was not, and I'll give you an example. Losing weight, it's like going to the gym was not personally exciting for me. I was just thinking about how much I didn't want to do this. And even I would try to like sort of skew my feelings about it, but I just looked at that same thing, that same goal with dread. And you have to get to the point where the way you're writing the goal or the habit or how you're crafting this is getting you excited. So sometimes it's wordsmithing it, sometimes it's changing your mindset, but you have to get to the point where you can honestly say, this goal is exciting to me. I'm excited. And then relevant. You want to make sure it aligns with your priorities, your values. I wanted to learn how to juggle. That was a thing that had nothing to do with my professional goals, had nothing to do. It was just, I thought it would be neat. I thought, there are benefits to neuroplasticity and being able to expand your thinking and the way that your brain works, and that coordination, it appealed. I thought, well, that would be really kind of fun to be able to sit around and add juggling. It was not personally exciting for me. And it also was kind of not relevant, right? And so I could not get into it. So here's an example. I was thinking about how do we go from vague goals to smarter goals? And one would be a vague goal would be like grow membership. But if you want to make it a smarter goal, then thinking something like increase membership by 15% by December 31st, 2025, by launching a referral program and hosting 2 member webinars. It gets a little more juicy, a little more exciting. There's like a little bit more oomph there. And maybe you're, refining and adapting this plan as you're going along. But, for a lot of us, it's getting into a little bit of that. What can make you generate excitement that you can then power up all of the ingenuity and creativity that you have to feed into the energy that it's going to take to make that goal an actuality, to actually create the outcome that you want. How are we feeling so far? We feeling good? All right. We're going to go on just a little bit further. I want to keep this rolling. So if you want to refine your goals and make them smarter, we're getting into usually the hard part of that is finding that excitement, is really figuring out how can we define this and refine it so that we get to the point where we're excited about it. It's still meaningful. The metrics that we're putting around it aren't entirely arbitrary. And this really, makes it, there's a little risk involved. It's a little risky and it makes me excited. What makes this goal stretch and keep you motivated? So then what you want to think about, and this was another point I made in my article last week. What do you want to think about? You want to think about how you can bring this into your life every day if possible. Because if it's not in front of you, if it's not right there, if it's not top of mind, if you're not touching it every day in some way, it's just so much easier for it to fall away. And you keep saying, well, next week I'm going to start that. I want to write a letter to a friend once a month or something. Next week I will start that. And so it's so easy to put these things on the back burner until they don't, and really they just stay there. Then there are no burners. They fall off of all of them altogether and you don't achieve the goals. So how can you incorporate daily tasks to keep you on point for these goals that you're trying to achieve? So what we would do next is creating these daily wins. As I mentioned before, if you signed up to register for this workshop, you will receive this handy dandy worksheet afterwards where you can fill it out. You can go back. There's some additional notes in there too for your reference. And if you are watching this as a replay later, then if you just email me your information, I will be happy to send that to you separately as well. Michael also added, one of the best ways to stay on track with a goal is to set aside a specific time on your work calendar to work on goal execution. And that's exactly what we're getting to right now. Excellent point. So breaking these smarter goals into manageable daily actions. If we were talking about doing something like, and this is another example, say your goal is to increase member forum participation by 20% by September 2025. I mean, that's a lot, right? First of all, kudos to you if you're tracking that and you know what your member forum participation looks like. But to increase it by 20% by September 2025, what do you have to do to make that happen? And so a sample daily action might be to spend 15 minutes responding to posts and then creating new threads each morning. So what that would look like is if somebody is actually posting in your member forum, that you would take the time to respond, but then also you're thinking of ways to prompt people or to provoke people to be able to want to engage. One thing on association chat, I like to have these questions every Monday, and I like to call them, I think of them as low risk questions, right? Low risk vulnerability, because you're sharing something, revealing something about yourself, but it's low risk. You're not going to look bad in front of anyone who's a potential employer, a potential colleague, a potential, somebody that you want to look good in front of. So these questions are designed, I always want them to be something where you're revealing a little bit about your personality or your thinking or just a little bit about who you are, but it never puts the person in a bad light. Even if there's a question where it's like, what's an area I want to improve upon? It's always sort of positioned so that it's low risk vulnerability for the person answering. The other goal of that question that's out there is to get people to engage with each other. Thinking about that, I went down the rabbit hole a little bit on that one. Thinking about that, this person's example of increasing member forum participation, adding that activity in the daily, figuring out a way, what is it that's going to increase engagement and also build engagement so it's moving on. That would be the way to do it. And if you're thinking about every day and doing an activity every day, that would help you. So ask yourself what daily actions will help you to achieve your smarter goals. Now, for those of you who are AI aficionados, you love to go in and figure out how to incorporate AI as your technology to be your sort of coach and lead you along the way. This is where a prompt would come in as you're going along with this, thinking what daily actions can help me achieve this smarter goal. And then you insert your goal, your smarter goal that you've figured out. So if you're going through the worksheet, what you would end up doing is writing that smarter goal that you've come up with, and then adding that to your prompt. What daily actions can help me achieve this smarter goal? And that way you can get some ideas. If it's hard for you, or if you're just stuck on one, this can help you to find several that might help you to better achieve your goals, and you can incorporate those into your daily habits. All right, big goals are achieved through small, consistent actions. And so just be thinking about those daily steps. And if you can, here we go. Let's look over here. If you have some ideas, Michael and Liz have both responded. But if you have some ideas about how a daily task or a daily activity could help you to achieve your smarter goals, feel free to type it into the chat. I'll look over here, and then we'll be thinking about how we can stack these habits, right? If you pair an action, and we learned this from, there's a really great book, Atomic Habits. I've read it a few times. I like to go back to it periodically. It's just an amazing book. And if you haven't read it, you might want to pick it up. But this idea of pairing your activities to create these habits that are sticky and that will allow you to get closer to your goals. It's a really great way to think about habits and making them habits, basically these actions that can come together. So if you pair that action with something you already do, like every morning when I have my coffee, I am going to respond to a post or think about a post that I'm going to put into my member forum. Or every day when I actually do this, every morning when I get up and I'm having my coffee, I send a text to my sister, just so she knows that I'm thinking about her. And that way I can keep in touch with somebody I care about, even though we don't live next door to each other. All right. And Liz says, reading Atomic now, and she loves it. Yes, I love it too. It's so good. So, okay. If you have your smarter goals in mind, ooh, and I see a message from, yes, Michael says, excellent book for building habits. It really is. If you have these smarter goals in mind and you're creating your daily actions, you want to incorporate those into, as Michael was saying earlier, your calendar. You want to put these actually scheduled into your calendar. They don't fall off. It is the thing that you do every day. And maybe it's, every work day, and you take the weekends off. I don't know. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. But I will say that with these streaks, if you can do it on a daily, and maybe it's through the work week or whatever, if you do these on the daily, they're going to stay top of mind. Your brain is actively going to be working toward them. You're diligently going to be working toward it as you're going through these tasks. And then you will get so much further than if you didn't. So schedule that in. All right. So what's one example of a daily habit that you're going to be doing, a daily task that you're going to be doing to achieve your smarter goal moving further into the year? I'm curious if anybody has anything they want to share. Curious. That's okay. I don't know if anyone's going to have a response for me here, but I will tell you. Oh, yes, Liz is thinking. This is good. I like it. It's allowed. So one of the things that we want to think about as we are moving forward with this is this commitment piece as we're moving through. So you create your habits that you're going to engage in. You add it to your calendar. But where is the commitment? Where is that accountability that you have to make sure that you do it? Now, there is some research that says that if you make a huge goal and you broadcast it on, say, social media or something, and you say, this is the year I'm going to write the book, it might seem like you're making yourself accountable to the entire world, and that would mean that you're probably going to get closer to your goal. But research actually says that it can go the opposite direction. And the reason why is because you get a dopamine hit from sharing something that's a huge goal and everybody praising you on that goal as if you already achieved it. And it sort of takes the wind out of your sails, so to speak. It can dampen that fire that you feel to continue to go and build and do the thing that you need to do, right? And so we have to be careful, because while we might want to be accountable, and be held accountable for making sure that we achieve what we're doing and we're actually doing what we say we're going to do, we also don't want to go overboard and get that dopamine hit to make our brains feel like we've already done it and not actually get to the point where we're achieving what we need to achieve. Michael says, every morning I write down my thoughts on strategic thinking for a few minutes. It adds to my research, learning, and ability to assist others with the time I have on my work calendar. Excellent example. Excellent example. Yeah, if you spend that time, just a little bit of time every day, there's no way you're not moving forward. There's no way that you're not going to be getting further in your goal, because automatically your brain is going to be looking for new connections, new ways to explain things, new ways to reach out to people, new people to reach out to who might be able to help you spread the word about strategic thinking. I mean, it's a super smart idea. And I think that the idea that you then incorporate that into your calendar, like, oh, and now that I've figured out where some of these ideas can go, maybe in a blog post that goes on an industry blog, maybe in a collaborate post that goes on ASAE's online community. Maybe it's something where I can reach out to so and so and help them with research I know that they're doing. This is a fantastic way for you to keep this goal in mind and to keep moving forward. All right, we're rounding out toward the end of this, and I'm having fun, and I hope you guys are too. Love the goal setting stuff. And in talking about accountability, what kind of accountability plan are you going to have in place? So you're thinking about your day to day, what you're going to be doing, but what is an action step that you can take to hold yourself accountable? I'll tell you about another thing that exists, and that is there is a platform called Stick. It's STIKK. And it is something that is you essentially you really put your money where your mouth is in some cases, where you can place a bet on yourself and to say, I am going to do X. And if I don't, then I am going to donate $10 to, some sort of organization you don't like, or a cause you don't want to give money to. And in this way, you can have a sort of negative reinforcement of, if I don't do what I say I will do, then something bad that I don't want to have, like something, and I'm not going to give you examples. I'll let you think of these yourself. But this could be like donating to a political party you don't believe in. This could be, it could be something where you could help to support someone else's, it could be a positive where it's like you're sending $5 to your son or your cousin every time you don't do something that you say that you're going to do. And every time you see that money leave your bank account, that's a reminder of why you need to get back on. And only do this if you really think that you're going to do it. But that's the commitment, right? That you're going to actually do the thing you say you're going to do. Another thing is to talk to somebody who is not an immediate family member, but it's like a friend or somebody else that will hold you accountable, but is not someone that you can sort of guilt or hold it over in the household, or there can be animosity sometimes between husbands and wives. It's like, maybe I just need a day off. You don't need that added grievance in your personal, really close relationships in your household, but find somebody that you can be accountable to who will be somebody who checks in with you, but will not be somebody that you feel comfortable, getting angry with over dinner because you didn't do the thing that you said you would do. Jen Louie, I see you. It's okay. There's going to be a replay. It's all right. And I have a workshop. I have a worksheet that I can send you later. But yes, we are just kind of coming around to the end of this. One thing that I want you to say, or that I want you to know, is that when you've created the smarter goals and you're feeling excited and you've added an element of this riskiness to it, and that you feel like you're really invested in this, then what I want you to think about is in these daily tasks, as you're moving along, how you can reinstill why this is truly important to you along the way. And that is to keep you motivated as you go along. Listen, life happens, certain times, certain things may shake you up on your path. But if you have this stuff built in, you know what it is you want to achieve, you know why you want to achieve it, and you actually feel like you give a damn and you care, then it's going to be easier to get back to it whenever things sort of stabilize. And again, I bring up my own personal situation. I lost my mom this year. Look, I'm sorry, but like for a little bit of time, things were just not even the things I care about, I did not care about as much as I did during that time frame, right? Like I just needed a sort of a timeout from life for a second. That might happen. And if it does, it doesn't mean that you're completely off track. It just means that when you come back, you know what to do. You're going to jump in. You're going to look at what you can achieve each day to stay on track, and to remind yourself of why you care about it, why it matters, when it matters. Yeah. All right. So what I love, Liz says, I love a good worksheet. I do too. I love good stationery. I love good worksheets. I love good planners. I love good virtual workshops with great people like Michael and Liz and Jen. And so what I want to ask you now is, if you are still watching and still engaged, tell me a little bit about what your own method for accountability will be. You know, do you have a plan for how you're holding yourself accountable? Is it reaching out to another person? Is it how are you making sure that you're going to do the thing that you're doing? Is it setting up reminders for yourself? Some people do that. And mailing yourself a letter to see if you're still on track a little bit down the road. Share with me what you think that you're going to be doing to hold yourself accountable. Or don't. You don't have to either. It's up to you. So here are the main points that we talked about. We talked a lot about how you would decide upon what your goal might be. We talked about smarter goals and how it's a little bit different from SMART goals. We're adding the excitement and we're adding this element of risk so that you're stretching what your goals would be, and that you're actually getting invested in the excitement of things so that you care about what it is that you're achieving. And I do think that that stretch, that making yourself grow in it, it can be a really, really positive element to all of this, because a lot of times we have no idea what we can really achieve until we do stretch ourselves just a little bit, right? Or maybe a lot, but for me, a little bit can go a long way. And then we talked about, you know, how to figure this in, break these goals down into tasks, moving us forward on a daily basis, scheduling them into our calendars so that we don't forget about them. They're not easy to put on the back burner. And then figuring out your own methods for accountability, something that will work for you. Because we know that, you know, these loud proclamations on social media a lot of times can backfire based on the research. So I'm going to lose 100 pounds this year. I'm not ever going to say that on social media, because, you know, it's sort of, you get that dopamine hit of everyone saying you can do it. And then what happens when that excitement dies away? I've gotten the dopamine hit as if I've already achieved something. But when I have to put my tennis shoes on in the morning and go to the gym, am I feeling it? Probably not. And that moment is going to feel more like potential disappointment than it is to feel like I'm actually moving further toward my goal. So that's a little consideration on psychology for those loud proclamations. So today we talked about all of these goals. We talked about reasons why it's perfectly fine to love New Year's resolutions, and then even to like continue to develop and reassess these goals. We actually learned from Michael. We got some bonus material today, learning about his focus framework and talking about strategic thinking, which was a bonus for me too, because I always love learning from Michael. And again, I feel like if you want to find out a little bit more about that, he does write about it. And now you know that it's a goal, so you can support Michael in his goal for 2025 and spreading the word about strategic thinking and why we need more of it. And here's your challenge. I want you to take one action today. I want you to think about how you can either share your goal with someone who can cheer you on. You could tag me on social media talking about progress you're making on things that you think you might do as differently as a result of attending this, or as a result of getting inspired by something else that you heard. It's really these small, consistent steps that are going to lead to big progress. And I think that commitment and then taking action piece, it really is where the magic lies. So materials and resources. After this, I'm going to send out the worksheet. Again, if you did not register for this workshop, where you submitted an email address to me, just reach out to me, direct message me, or email me if you have it, whatever, and post in the comments, and I can send you that worksheet that I developed for this workshop. And then if you signed up for this and registered for it, you will now receive 7 different emails. Just be aware that they're coming. And they're just going to give you some additional information that goes along with what we talked about, some fun stuff. They're short emails, they're light, but it's to keep you on track and to get you thinking about it every day, more about what this workshop was about, just to remind you about the fun and excitement that comes with going after those things that you want, that you really care about, and making them happen. So with that, thank you all for joining me today for this workshop. It was honestly, I did not have this workshop on my agenda until I wrote that article last week. And then I thought, you know what we need to do? We just need to do this. We need to get up and talk about how to set these goals and what we can do. I do think that you have to give a damn to make them happen, or to make them happen well. And I am curious to hear what you think. What are you doing? What would you do differently? What's worked for you? And how are you going to go about achieving the things that you're achieving in 2025? So thank you all. Thanks for those who are attending live. Also, let me see over here. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Thank you all who attended live. Thank you if you're watching this as a replay. And really just thanks to everybody who might be listening to this and really cares about figuring out how they can improve their lives and the things that they're doing, how they're operating in the world. We need that. We need that positive motion and that positive progress in this world today. So I appreciate all of you. And I hope you keep asking questions to learn every day. Because as Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. I had to end like that. I always do. So have a great rest of the week, everyone. I wish you well, and see you in the rest of 2025.